Call the meeting to order. At this point, I believe let's call the roll.
Legislators Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Here.
Rowley,
Here.
Ryan,
Here.
Jordan,
Here.
Williams,
Here.
Irvin.
I say here, I'm sorry. I'm here.
Yeah, 7 present, none absent.
Oh, thank you. A, reading of the minutes unless it's waived.
Moved. Second.
First, I believe that's Legislator Williams, second by Legislator Jordan. All those in favor? Say
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. B, approval of the minutes from the
Motion to approve.
Second.
Legislator Jordan is first, minority leader is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right, so human rights, number 1A, Human Rights Commission, confirming the appointment to the Onondaga County Commission on Human Rights. We have 2. If I could ask who's here to speak for that.
Mr. Chairman, it's Brian Donnelly. I'm here to address these.
Good morning, Brian. Thank you.
Yep. 1A and 1B. 1A is an appointment, I believe, of the chairman of the legislature. 1B is an appointment of the county executive. It's Agnes McCrae and Rashida Caldwell. Their resumes are attached to information about both individuals. Monica Williams, our chief diversity officer, has vetted both of them and is positive about both appointments.
Very good. Thank you. Yeah, the resumes are there for your review. Is there any questions about 1A or 1B?
Mr. Chairman, no question, but I'd like to co-sponsor both.
All right, very well. No problem. Anything
Same
else?
here, same here, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Legislator Williams, any comments? Do I have a motion?
Move A.
Second.
All right, we have a first, we have a second. Could we please call the roll?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Irvin.
Yes.
7 ayes, none opposed.
Thank you. 1B then, is there a motion?
I move it.
Leader Irvin is first. Is there a second?
Second.
B May, I believe. Could we call the roll, please?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Irvin.
Yes.
7 ayes, none opposed.
Very good. Thank you. On to 2. We have 2A through F. I see. I'm not sure who's going to talk to. I'm sorry. I'm a little.
Frank
disabled.
Mendo's on, Tim.
Yeah, Frank, I saw you earlier, but I wasn't sure. Sorry to hear your bad news, but go ahead, Frank. Thank you, sir.
Thank you first, Chairman, for that. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So have 3 resolutions today approving projects for our capital improvement program for 2021. And then their companion resolutions to supply and approve the bond financing for each one. So I believe the first one is the Harbor Brook channel improvements. This is a $200,000 project to reshape, to maintain, to fix concrete within the Harbor Brook channel itself, which is in the Harbor Brook Drainage District. So this is a continuing project. The funds will be used to make sure that the flows in Harbor Brook are proper and good, and not causing harm to surrounding properties while also maintaining the channel.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Rowley, thank you.
and again, I don't know if Frank's the appropriate one to answer this. I don't know if the CFO is on today, but again, it's just curious to me that, you know, with all the funds and fund balance available in WEP, that we're bonding for, in my opinion, a small amount of $200,000 to get this work done. I'm not sure why we can't find it somewhere else. But that's my question.
All right.
I'll jump in on that. Well, Jim, this is the Harbor Brook Drainage District. So it's, I believe, and Frank can jump in, this has its own tax levy.
Okay, you're right.
So there's really no ability to grab any surplus here to do this.
Got it.
If this was done out of the main sanitary district, we could certainly, you know, I understand what you'd be saying.
Right.
Really, our hands are tied in to be able to access any surplus to do this.
No, thanks for clarifying that. I've only had one coffee this morning, so that makes
No problem.
all right. Thanks.
I'll move it, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we've got a motion by legislator Jordan. There's a first. Is there a second?
A second.
I'm sorry, I don't know who that is.
Chris Ryan.
All right, legislator Ryan, there's a second. Can we call the roll, please?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Irvin.
Yes.
7 ayes, none opposed.
Thank you. On to 2B then. As we all know, I don't know if Frank, you want to talk to that, but that's I'll go ahead.
Yeah, I believe this is the resolution approving the project, which is a bit separate and apart from the financing, but required to approve the project and the proposed maintenance improvements.
Yes. All right, any questions about B?
Actually, it's the opposite, Chairman.
Yes, right, it's the
Yeah.
bond, yeah.
Yeah, 2 is the bonding, A or 2B.
I'll move it, Chairman.
Second.
Very good. We got a first by B. May, second by legislator Jordan. Can we call the roll, please?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Irvin.
Yes.
7 ayes, none opposed.
Very good. Then on to 1C, resolution for approving for proposed improvements Onondaga County Sanitary District consisting of phase 1 of Metro. Mr. Mento.
Yes, so Mr. Chairman, this is what we're calling phase 1 of asset renewal measures required at our Metro, the large wastewater treatment plant. These series of projects will involve the upgrade of mechanical, electrical, structural, odor control, and other infrastructure and assets here at our Metro plant under our phase 1 program. What we're seeking here is $4 million in engineering support to prepare plans and specifications that can go out to bid. We estimate that the construction value of this project will be in the neighborhood of 25 to 30 million, or maybe even slightly higher than that. So we're trying to get an engineer on board that can orchestrate the design and assist us. I think everybody knows many of our assets, especially here at Metro, where we're dealing with flows of 60 to 70 million gallons going through this plant every day. It's time to start upgrading certain assets. So that's what this is.
Very good. Questions or comments?
I would just note, I'm not sure if Frank mentioned it, but this is for the engineering portion of it, not for the actual construction. just so everybody realizes that.
Right. Yeah, 4
And-
million.
Yeah, and I at EP, I guess the issue was raised as to how expensive these engineering aspects and construction aspects of our environmental infrastructure projects are. But it is what it is. Obviously, we need to maintain this infrastructure and hopefully improve upon it, make it more efficient and less costly over the long run. But obviously these projects do cost an awful lot of money, as over the years we've looked at the cost of all of our AFC amended consent judgment projects, and the cost is just incomprehensible. But again, these are things that need to be done, and unfortunately the cost is what it is.
Others? Sorry.
Sorry, Chairman. I also think it's probably important to mention that as we begin to pivot away from the high order of magnitude of the ACJ projects, recognize that those projects all end up here at the plant as well. The results of those projects end up here at the plant. So I guess my point is it's time to make sure that the assets here at the plant are performing as they should, are adequate and relevant given where we are. So that's the start of this.
Others? Questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Rowley.
Frank, can you just speak to what was, I guess, done in just the immediate past to Metro? Again, I've only had one coffee this morning, so I don't remember what was done just recently, but it seemed to think that we did spend some money here within the last few years, and I just wonder what that was and how much we spent.
Yeah, so that Legislator Rowley, that's a really good question, because you're right. And let me describe it to you this way. There are two sides to this plant. There's what we call the wet side, which treats the liquid effluent, basically creates the sludge, and then there's the dry side of the plant, which processes the sludge, the digesters, the thickeners, and then the sludge is hauled away. So wet side, dry side. The projects that you're alluding to are on the dry side of the plant. We're replacing our digesters right now as we speak. We're working on other biosolids equipment that's on that side of the plant. And those are significant dollars as well. I mean, the digester project is in the neighborhood of 30 million, but it's ongoing right now. It's going well. That's the dry side of the plant working to take care of the solids so that we can truck them to a landfill properly. So for the most part, in the last couple of years, it's been that side of the plant. What we're suggesting with this are asset renewal on the wet side of the plant. That makes sense to you?
Yeah, no, that's helpful. Thank you.
The questions, comments?
Chairman, I'll hop in real quick.
Yes.
Yeah, just to follow on with Legislator Rowley's question there. Besides the digester, one of the big things we're working on out there, one of our huge expenses is sludge disposal, because it goes typically to a landfill. And so besides the digester, the other big piece of equipment we invested in was a processor to thicken and dry the sludge, because a lot of what you're paying for to dispose of it is water in the sludge. So by drying it out, we save a lot of money on tonnage. So that's the other big piece there.
Other questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd like to ask something, please.
Yes, sure.
I'd like to know when the last time this was done and how much it cost.
Legislator Kinney, the last time this project was done is way, way before my time. I would say it was probably done in the 70s. I can get you more information on that. I just don't have it readily available for me right now. What this project is a whole variety of mechanical and electrical systems that serve large components to process our liquid influent. I can get you that information. Like I said, it was done 40 years ago. So
Thank you, Frank, and I'm sorry for your loss. I seem to recall some large amount of money being spent on mechanicals at that plant in the 90s. Now, my memory could be off, but I thought we had a part of the NYSERDA program we used out there for improvements to the mechanicals. So I would really like to know that. So thank you.
I will try to get you some information on that as well.
Appreciate that.
If there's nothing else, do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Legislator Jordan, is there a second?
I'll second.
I'm sorry, who's that? Legislator Ryan?
That was Legislator Ryan. Chairman Burtis, yes, thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm a little it's a little difficult today. Could we call the roll, please?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Yes.
Irvin. 7 ayes, none opposed.
Thank you. Then on to 1D, that is the bonding for what we just talked about. Is there any question or comment about that? If none, could I have a motion?
I'll move it.
B. May is first. Is there a second?
I'll second. Legislator Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. As a second, could we call the roll, please?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Irvin.
Yes.
7 ayes, none opposed.
Thank you. Then on to 1E. Mr. Mento.
So Chairman Burtis, this is the final one for our CIP for 2021. This is a large industrial pump station and force main in the Route 481-298 industrial corridor in the town of DeWitt. This is a project essentially that will enhance capacity for not only existing industrial users looking to expand in that area, but also new industrial users that can come in. The interesting thing about this project, and we're asking for 6.25 million for construction. That's construction. Design is in process right now. So this is a construction project. Is that the new routing of this force main from the pump station will take us away from the residential neighborhoods and allow us to minimize the impacts to the local residential community and get us to our major trunk sewer, which is right around Carrier Circle. So like I said, the design is ongoing right now and is nearly complete, and this will go out to bid this year, and it's estimated at 6.25 million.
Thank you. Do I have questions or comments? Anyone? Well, I think this is necessary today. We all know what's going on over there, and so I think that it's a necessary thing. It's expensive, but that's the way all of this for WEP and for sewer seems to be. So any other questions, comments?
Quick question, Chairman Burtis. It's already, so the engineering phase is done, Frank? So it's all done, the engineering is, the specs, all that is, we're just ready to go out to
Yes.
for the construction work?
So Legislator Ryan, the engineering design, as I said, is ongoing right now. It's, almost done. That'll be plans, specs, and then DEC approval. We expect that By the end of the first quarter, maybe just a month or two into the second quarter, everything should be wrapped up. So by late spring, early summer, we can get this on the street to bid and get a contractor working during the window of the summer and fall.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, or do I have a motion?
I'll move
I'll
it.
move it.
I'm sorry, I heard two at once. I heard Jordan and who?
Was it Chris?
I was legislator
Okay.
Ryan. Yeah, I'll second.
All right. We have a first by Jordan, a second by Ryan. Can we call the roll, please?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes,
Jordan,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Irvin.
yes,
7 ayes, none opposed.
Very good. On to 1F then. This is the bonding, 6.25 million for the project that we just went over in 1E. Could I have a motion, please?
Move.
I'll second it.
B. May is first, legislator Jordan is second. Could we call the roll, please?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
yes,
Jordan,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Irvin.
yes,
7 ayes, none opposed.
Thank you. And thank you, Frank. And again, we are all sorry for your loss. I hope you have a good day.
I really appreciate that from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so on to 3 in parks. We've got 3A, B, and C. I believe earlier when I was doing my thing, I believe Brian Kelly is here. Is that true?
I'm here. Good morning, everyone.
Where are you? Let's find you. There you are. Hello, Brian. Thank you.
Morning, Tim. Good morning, everyone. How we doing?
Well, we're hanging in there. Thanks. Go ahead.
Sure. We have 3 resolutions here today. The first one being for the United Shores Boat Launch to finish that project off. Last year, we received $320,000 for that project. This $300,000 right here will allow us to finish that project. The second resolution is to address various infrastructure and rehabilitation issues throughout the department. Each park has several projects incorporated in this, and they are going to address maintenance and safety issues. And the third resolution we have here today is for the engineering of lawn crypts at the Veteran Cemetery. These are pre-dug concrete graves that are dug in advance and will allow us to be more efficient with our manpower and do many more burials per year. So those are the 3 resolutions that we have on the table.
All right, so let's talk about 3A first, and all the things that we're going to do over Oneida Shores. I've got pictures if anybody is interested of the current boat launch, and it is in need for sure. I've got lots of information. Fishermen like to talk to me over there, and I like to talk to them. But yeah, the Bass Association does a lot of tournaments over there, so it's a highly used park. But is there any questions about 3A? Comments? Anyone? It's all quiet. All right, do I have a motion?
Move it, Chairman.
Mr. May is the first. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Ryan, I have you on my screen now so I can watch you. Could we call the roll, please?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Jordan, Williams,
Yes.
Irvin.
Yes.
6 ayes, 1 absent.
Very good. So then let's go over to 3B. Various improvements to the parks, 2.16 million. Any questions or comments about this?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just wanted to back up, and I apologize, but the money we just approved for the boat launch, that was like a second phase of that reconstruction. Just wanted to be clear.
Yes, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, right. We received $320,000 last year, Legislator Rowley, and the bids from the engineers came back, that was the price from the engineer, but the bids actually came back in the $595,000 range. So this extra $300,000 will allow us to complete the first phase of this Oneida Shores project. That'll finish off the ramp. And then the phases after that are, we're looking at a efficient way station. We're looking at a pay gate, and then we're looking at doing a retaining wall. So this is the first part of that multi-project.
Okay, and then the bond resolution or the project resolution on the table right now, is there any engineering work involved with this, or is this all construction?
This is all construction. The engineering work has come back, and we'll just go out to bid with this again.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions about 1B? Is there a motion? Is there a first?
I'll move 1B.
B May is first. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Minority Leader Irvin is second. 3B, could we call the roll, please?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Rowley,
Abstain.
Ryan,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Irvin.
Yes.
5 ayes, 1 abstention, 1 absent.
Thank you. Then to 3C. 100,000 there. Any questions about that? Any comments? We're all quiet or muted.
I'll just pick up where Legislator Rowley was on an earlier resolution. It's $100,000. How are we're just paying cash for this?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Brian.
Yes. This is just for the, Brian, yeah, this is just for the engineering to evaluate site. This project, Eric Stanzik and myself went up to Bath, New York, and visited that cemetery, and these pre-dug crypts will get us about 700 additional burials per year per acre. So yeah, this first portion of it is certainly, yes, just to pay for the engineering.
Thank you.
Brian, it is a bond resolution though for 100,000.
Yeah, just gonna jump in there. This is Steve Morgan, Brian. As with all our bond resolutions now, we have language in there that allows me to evaluate the current fiscal year, in this case, the 2020 year, and make a determination if there's sufficient surplus that we would use cash as opposed to bonding. That's in all the bond resolutions now. So just to head off future questions on this morning, anything that's 6 figures, I'll be looking at as we close out 2020, to see if there's potential to pay cash and forego the issuance of debt for these projects. The timing of that will be such Probably the end of February, we'll have an idea of what we're looking at for 2020.
Thanks, Steve.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Rowley, go ahead.
Brian, you said 700 crypts. Is that what we're targeting in this particular project?
700 additional burials per acre. Yeah.
And are we doing, and just curious, are we doing anything with the markers of any kind, or how does that work?
You mean the actual grave markers?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, they'll all be pre-dug and they'll all be set the same way. Big difference here, Jim, is before, our standard burial was at about, we dug that at about 4 by 10, which was 40 square feet. These will be 3 by 8, which will give us 24 square feet, which makes up for the difference in room per acre. But what else is great about this, and it kind of walked into your question about the markers, everything will be much neater set on more level ground. You can dig these in the ideal, weather conditions. You pre-dig them in advance, they're marked out perfectly. And when it comes burial time, everything is uniform and dug in unison. Whereas now, you're dealing with weather conditions, you're dealing with situations where you're going out there and, things might not be as uniform as we like because the way of the ground sits. That's a big portion of why you want to do this. Not only is it better, aesthetically, but, we use less staff to do it as well. So it's a win-win all around.
It makes sense. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Brian. Well, thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. Have a good day, everyone.
On to 4A. I did
Were you
see.
doing the vote?
Oh,
We vote
thank
on
you,
that?
Jamie. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Jamie. Did we do a motion? Jamie,
No, not yet.
is there a motion then? Thank you.
I'll move it.
Chairman,
Yes, be may.
could I jump in here? I think I really appreciate Steve Morgan clarifying the approach with the cash versus bonding. I think I would like to just state, I'm not going to make the request at this point because I don't know what that request exactly should be and what format. And sometimes we get trapped in formats when we're discussing items, and we probably should give it a little more thought. But I just like to make the request at this point to talk further with the CFO about some kind of establishing some kind of reporting system that just tells us whether or not we bond or use cash for the various items that we approve. So for the record, I'd just like to mention that right now as a desire to just, especially under the financial circumstances, to be informed downstream of how we intend to finance all of these good and necessary projects. I want to know where we land with each of these things down the road. We'll figure out how another time, but I just wanted to mention that we should probably have some kind of communication back to the committee on that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'll move the item.
If I could respond to that real quick, Brian, since typically the timing of these bond resos are either the end of the year or the beginning of the following year, if we were to use cash, you would see us use the year-end transfer authority to do that. Because that's the only way we could do that without coming back to the legislature. So that process is reviewed with the Chair of Ways and Means, and it's then reported to the full legislature. So there already is a reporting mechanism to capture these items if I were to use and make the decision to use cash. We can certainly highlight that and highlight it for the Chair of Ways and Means and the rest of the legislature, but there is a vehicle currently to do that.
Thanks, Steve. Like I said, maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more.
Yep.
But thank you. I appreciate it.
Chairman Burtis, can I follow up on that question?
Sure.
So Steve, but I guess to Brian's point, and not my point, so if you decided to pay cash instead of bond for that, Are you saying you would wait until the end of you wouldn't just do the reconcile? Or when would we know that? Like when, we wouldn't have to wait till the end of the year though, right?
No, because the resolutions before you, the language in there allows me to use surplus from 2020, which is the year that's passed already. So we'll make that decision once we know where we've ended 2020 in terms of, whether we ended with a surplus or a deficit. At that point, if the decision is to use cash, because we believe we have the ability to do that, it requires us to appropriate that money. And you would see it on the year-end transfers that we do that are reviewed with the Chair of Ways and Means and then reported to the full legislature, which would be sometime in March.
So you're saying we would know in March that when you do the transfer resolutions and then you report out to the Chair of Ways and Means, that would be done in March. So in March, we would know
Right.
whether or not you use cash.
Yep. Yeah, so the year-end authorizations that you guys passed already allows us to move money within accounts over and above the typical threshold that requires legislative approval. That whole process, this facilitates closing out the year, allows us to be efficient with that process, but there is reporting and approval requirements. Legislator Chairman Burgess has to sign off on those transfers. If I decide to use cash, that will be one of the transfers that will be involved with that year-end report. And then report it out to the legislature. So you'll know sometime in March or so if I chose to use cash for any of these projects. That allows me to do that.
Okay, thank you.
You good? Okay.
I'm good.
So on 3C, we have a motion and we have a first by Leader May. Is there a second?
Second.
Leader Irvin is second. Could we call the roll, please?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Jordan, Williams.
Yes.
Yes.
Irvin. 6 ayes, 1 absent.
Thank you. On to 4A, resolution talking about the construction of improvements to the On Center. I see Archie is here. Good morning. Go ahead.
Good morning, folks. As we spoke in committee, this is our yearly $500,000 request for monies to maintain the asset of the On Center complex, which is the Convention Center, the War Memorial, the Convention Center garage, and the John Mulroy Theater Complex. In the Civic Center is the On Center complex. And back in, if I remember, 2013, I think we'd all come to the conclusion that the good plan of this asset protection and investment is $500,000 a year. And this is a continuation of that request that we've done since then. And then, we strategize and we utilize these funds, whether we hold $500,000 back one year and spend $1 million the next year, or whether we do $500,000 a year. It depends on the actual need within the facility. And we're requesting that you authorize that $500,000 again. And as you can see in the 6-year capital plan, that it's just like I stated, it's $500,000 a year. We have various things that we want to do. And some of it's fluid. So I just found out last week that our Olympia, Zamboni, our model is Olympia, will probably just barely get through this shortened crunch season this year, and we'll have to have another one for the following season. That in itself is about $240,000. And it takes about 8 to 9 months to order it and receive it. So these are the things as you see in front of you, and some of the things I've mentioned before that we intend to use this money for.
All right, thank you, Archie. Are there questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Rowley.
I don't know if Steve or maybe the controller's on, could they, do they know how much cash is in this project account as of today?
So in this project account today, from previous authorizations, is $1.2 million, some change.
Thank you.
Last year, we didn't invest any of last year's money for various reasons. We were getting very, very poor project bids across all of our capital projects because primarily because of the pandemic. We had a supply chain interruption. We had higher insurance rates. We had much higher bidding rates. Our public bids were coming in about 20%, at least 20% higher than we had anticipated before the pandemic. And because the War Memorial and the Convention Center were essentially not used for any public events for this year, we withheld the investments that we were going to make last year in kicking off the actual projects. We're gearing up to do those now, and this additional 500,000 is, to allow us to continue this from what we had previously planned projects and what we have in front of us today to move all this stuff forward in 2021. And next year we'll ask you for the same amount.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Or is there a motion?
But I have one quick,
Yeah.
Chairman Burtis. Archie, did you say that the Zamboni you plan on is going to come out of this, or cash, or what? Can we go back to that?
Previously, the Zamboni has been declared a county asset just because of the value of it. So yes, it would, unless Mr. Morgan chooses to utilize some of his flexibility, this will next year with this, this year, 2021, we would have to order another Zamboni with some of this capital funds that we're requesting now.
And the flexibility refers to is possibly bonding for it?
Well, this is a bond. This is all bonded money that we're asking for. It would be up to Steve Morgan whether he chose, along with the chairman, to utilize some cash surplus for it. I can't speak on that. That's something they'll decide. Right now, our request is for the bonding authority for this 500,000 as a repeat of what we do every year.
Okay, thanks.
Is there a motion? Anita first.
I'll move it, Tim.
Leader May is first. Is there a second?
I'll second so we can vote on it.
Leader Urban is second. Could we call the roll, please?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Chairman, I was trying to call a timeout there before we started the vote. Can I just ask one quick
I'm sorry.
clarification to Mr. Wixon?
Yeah.
Thank you. Archie, so you've got $1.2 million in the account. I'm not going to call it surplus because you didn't get the work done last year for good business reasons from the sound of it. Do you intend to get, what's your intention for the year as far as what you wish to accomplish? Are you going to expend last year's and this year's with everything you intend to do, or where's that at?
So we always don't like to bite off more than we can chew. And I will certainly take a look at the market that's in front of us right now. I know 2 years ago, we experienced some pretty poor pricing because the market was flush with work. I think, as we all know, I think we're going to have kind of a downturn in the construction market as a follow to this pandemic. So I believe that this year in front of us is going to present itself for some of the best pricing that we've seen in several years. And I'd like to be able to, I'd like to be able to utilize that strategy to get as much done as we can for these things that we've let lag a year, and get right back up into the momentum that we had begun carrying around 2017, when we were really getting these buildings into good shape, and we were getting some good events, and we were getting some good occupancy, and we were getting a lot of use. The following the last bowling congress, we thought we had a good 5-year plan in front of us. And a year goes by, and we have a severe downturn because of this pandemic, where we couldn't use our facilities. But that's going to open back up. We know that's not going to open back up quickly. So this period of pause in public events, or lessening of public events and spectator capacity, is just going to give us a great opportunity to move some of these forward and quickly.
Thank you, Archie. Just for the record, Chairman, I'm going to vote in favor of this. One, because of the pricing opportunity. Two, because of the fact that just because things are slow doesn't mean we can necessarily afford to stop maintaining our facility for a year or even 2. So I vote yes on this to pick up where we left off.
Very good. Thank you. Go ahead.
Rowley,
Abstain.
Ryan,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Williams, Irvin,
Yes.
Williams.
I'm sorry, yes.
6 ayes, 1 abstention.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Archie.
Thank you very much, folks.
On to 5, Sheriff's Department. Who's here to speak to that? I'm sorry, I was to scroll my screen.
Good morning, everybody. This is Captain Nate Hawker. I'll be representing the Sheriff's Office Correction Department. Currently, we're seeking a resolution authorizing the reconstruction, construction, and repairs of the correction facility in the county of Onondaga, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $98,000, and authorizing the issuance of $98,000 in bonds of said county to pay costs thereof. This is part 4 of our 5-year capital improvement project. First, we'll be asking for $48,000 for lighting on the grounds. It's needed as it'll improve our security camera operation and overall safety and security of the facility. Currently, our lighting is composed of high pressure sodium bulbs along with metal halide. They're not cost effective, and we're seeking LED type lighting, which is more cost effective and energy efficient, and it'll definitely have a positive effect on our bills for the facility. Secondly, we'll be asking for $50,000 for replacement of housing unit doors and cell doors. Our existing doors are beginning to deteriorate by means of rust, broken welds, cracks, and gaps, which impede security and creates problems with climate control. Many steel stipend doors also need replacement due to similar issues and the expanding and tracking of the metal that some of the doors have faced during the climate that we have.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question that's not about
Yes, ma'am.
this expenditure exactly, but there was a town hall meeting Senators Rachel May and Mannion had this past weekend. And, sorry, this past week rather. And there's a comment about closing the facility and some discussion about closing one of the facilities. Do you know anything about that?
No, ma'am, that's not to my knowledge, and that would be something that the sheriff would have to address.
All right. Any other questions? Go ahead, Mr. Ryan.
Well, also, I guess just a follow-up on that, and maybe it was something that was spoke of, but if there's something additional, maybe not just that the representative from the sheriff department knows, but I don't know, I guess I would task if the legislature, if somebody from the county executive's office is still on too. I know that Leader Irvin directed that question to the sheriff's department, but if somebody is on the representative from the county executive's office, I would propose that same question.
Chris, it's Brian Donnelly. Certainly, county executive is looking at the populations that are currently in both facilities, and trying to make some determinations based on what's allowed under state law of what might be in the best interest of the taxpayer. I believe that there's been some conversations with the sheriff, but there's no definitive plan moving forward to close one of the facilities.
So, and that's okay, but I mean, but as long as those discussions are quote unquote, air quote, discussions are going on, is it prudent to go forward with bonding resolutions to upgrade facilities that is a facility that is ongoing discussions about closing?
I think that's the question, Legislator Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
Right.
what started the whole process, because that's the question. And seemingly we should know something about these discussions, Mr. Donnelly, that are going on, so that we would be better advised about doing what we're doing here.
Legislator Irvin, we're waiting on the state to find out about staffing levels of what could be done. There are minimum staffing mandates for these facilities. So I think that they are addressing, or it has been discussed to be addressed in the governor's budget, staffing levels. That will certainly go a long way to fostering additional discussions about whether you can look at a consolidated facility or not.
So those staffing levels as mandated by DOCS, right? So DOCS sets those, and obviously there's minimum staffing levels. Are you saying that there's potential state legislation to change the minimum staffing levels that would DOCS would have to take action on or change, and then as a result of that, we would possibly re-examine if we need both facilities?
Yeah, I think if there's a change in the staffing levels, that's one consideration that we would look at, as far as on top of the populations, to make a determination of whether those facilities could potentially be consolidated.
Okay. If I could just maybe add some, make this a little more specific. I think the issue at hand, Brian Donnelly, correct me if I'm wrong, is whether or not we, the county or counties, will be allowed to have some local control regarding staffing levels. That seems to be the issue at hand. And that is really going to determine our needs, because right now those requirements are dictated to us. And as a result, we're kind of stuck operating in an overstaffed capacity in some instances, where, when population is down, we don't have the flexibility to make decisions that, still keep the jail safe, but allow us to economize here and there when appropriate.
Yes, certainly that's the case. Is more local control would aid in our ability to manage the facilities.
Chairman?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, so at facilities, and a couple of you were on facilities committee, so you know about this, that the original resolution was for $368,000 with $270,000 of that for air conditioning upgrades. The facilities committee had a similar discussion, although not quite as in depth as this, discussing that exactly. And so that's the reason that they actually amended the resolution, took out the air conditioning upgrades and just left in the lighting and the security doors. You know, I look at, I think that was a prudent, wise decision that they made. And really these two items left, I look at as more for the safety and security of the staff up at the Jamesville, and the inmates as well. Especially with the security doors, you know, that's something we can't have failures in or issues with operation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Leader May is first. Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rowley, second. Could we call the roll, please?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Irvin.
Yes.
7 ayes, none opposed.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Next up is 6, emergency communications. Julie, I believe you're here.
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
A little bit. Yeah,
Is
there
that a
you
little-
go. Maybe
Okay,
a little, there you are. You're good.
Okay, we're in a conference room.
I see.
Oh, good. You can see us. Good. Okay, we got a couple folks with us. Kevin
Great.
Sprague, Ben Rinaldi, if we need to call upon them. Our first project regards replacing and refreshing the Vesta or next generation 911 phone system. This is an extension from last year and it's a multi-year request. Last year, we were requested $212,000 for consultant services to assist the county in developing an RFP for the necessary services and equipment to keep us next gen 911 ready. And now we're requesting funds for the system itself. A change from last year is that we no longer need that RFP consultant. We were able to save the county that money. We're really happy with the Vesta system. There's really no need to change it and put it out for bid. We simply need to do an upgrade of the current system. So that's good. And I can tell you a little bit more about that system. The easiest way to think of it, it's literally our 911 phone system. This is how phone calls come in and allow us to provide essential services to our citizens. So it's an absolute need and essential to our business. It is also a mandatory upgrade. The current system was installed in 2016 and expires in 2021. And it's reached the end of its useful service life. With this upgrade, we'll also be able to replace our recording system called NICE, which was installed in 2014, and that's also reached the end of its useful life. A little bit about Next Gen 911. That's really the future of 911. It allows us to keep pace with the way Americans communicate, such as text, phone, and video, and then migrate to IP-based technology. That transition is mandated by FCC and the state DHSES. Another added bonus, we had projected this to be 3.7 million last year. We were able to reduce that bonded amount to 2.35.
Great. Is there any questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So Julie, so this is essentially I guess something required by the FCC?
Correct, that to be able to be next gen 911 ready is an FCC mandate.
Okay, and I mean, are there any other options that maybe will be less costly, or is this kind of the least costly option in order to comply with the FCC requirements?
Is this the least costly option? Is
Yeah.
that what you said? Yeah, absolutely. Because it's a mandatory upgrade. We need to do the upgrade anyway, and it meets both requirements.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sure.
Other questions? Is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
I believe it's Mr. Ryan's first, Leader May is second. Can we call the roll, please?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Irvin. Irvin,
Sorry, yes.
7 ayes, none opposed.
Then on to 6B, Julie, if you would.
Sure. So this is to repave our 911 center parking lot for $344,000. You might recognize this. This is a repeat request from last year. It was not approved last year. Really the parking lot has not gotten any better. It's a pretty straightforward request. This is a 30-year-old parking lot. It is deteriorating to the point that our employees really don't feel safe. It's a minefield, honestly, of potholes. They're visible on a clear day, but on a snowy day, they're not. We've had one person fall in there in the past year and sprain their ankle. It's time. It needs to be done. This would allow us to also have conduit placed underground, which is something we need to do anyway as we're migrating these technologies, give us more wire space. So it will help us in that regard as well.
Thank you. Questions?
I'll move it.
Second,
Legislator Ryan is first. Is there a second?
second,
Leader Irvin is second. Can we call the roll, please?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Irvin.
yes.
7 ayes, none opposed.
Thank you, Julie. Please take care that more employees don't fall in those things.
Okay, we will. Thank you all.
Sounds treacherous, so thank you. 7, Finance Division, Real Property Tax Services. I'm not sure if Don is here.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, thank you, Don. Go ahead.
This resolution is to correct various errors in the January 2021 town county tax bills. I can go through them quickly if you like. There's only
Maybe just a little bit. There's a lot more content there than normal.
the first one's in the town of DeWitt. There's an error on the number of town trash units billed. 75 units on a bill instead of 0.75, so we're correcting that. That's all town money, it's not county money. In Lafayette, there was a fairly large one for $100,000. That was from multiple parcels where the bank that collects taxes on behalf of the school district didn't report quite a few parcels as being paid. Therefore, the unpaid school tax got added to the county through an error. So, in Manlius, there was an error with county sewer charge. It's a martial arts studio. I guess there was some confusion about where the water meter was. It's actually on a different property. And then in Pompey, the property that should have been wholly exempt, the assessor made an error. The property is exempt. And in in Salina, just 2 clerical errors. Regarding the assessment.
All right. Thank you. Any questions, comments? It's somewhat routine, customary, that there's a lot there this time. So any questions, any comments? Can I have a motion?
Moved.
There's a first,
Second.
there's a second. Mr. Rowley, second. Can we call the roll, please?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Irvin.
Yes.
7 ayes, none opposed.
Thank you, Don. Appreciate it. On then to number 8, County Clerk authorizing New York State reimbursement. Who would like to speak to that?
Good morning, Chris Polchaki here.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah, so this resolution is for reimbursement of salary and other expenses related to the collection distribution of mortgage tax for the state, done pursuant to section 262 of the state tax law. The total reimbursement for the 2021 expenses will be $440,193. That is down slightly from last year. That's due to a decrease in IT expenses.
All right. Thank you. Questions or comments? Is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Mr. Ryan is first. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rowley is second. Could we call the roll, please?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Irvin.
Yes.
7 ayes, none opposed.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you all. Have a good morning.
You too. So then on to 9, a local law to amend the Onondaga County Hotel Room Occupancy Tax Law. Brian Donnelly, I'd imagine.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh.
thank you. So number 9 is a local law. It would modify our current 5% room occupancy tax to 7%. Quick history on this. In January of 2020, the legislature sent a memorializing resolution to the state asking for the modification. It was approved by the state legislature. It was approved and signed off by the governor in December. Based on our estimate for 2021 for ROT is at $4.8 million. Based on the fact that this will go into effect, assuming that it's approved in March, we're hopeful that it will bring in approximately another $1.6 million in 2021. Our intention would be is anything above the $4.8 million we would use to go towards the arts agencies that had their allotments reduced in 2021. And happy to take any questions.
Thank you.
Frank, can you repeat the last part, please? The
Sure.
intentions of the allotments?
The intention would be to anything that's above the $4.8 million that was budgeted, we would use to offset the reductions for the arts agencies that are included in the ROT in 2021.
What about Visit Syracuse?
Across the board.
In other words, anything that we tourism, economic development investments.
Anything that is part of the ROT funding, we would look to use in 2021 that's above the $4.8 million to offset their current cuts.
Thank you.
And you believe that this additional is going to bring in plus 1.6 million, right? Do I have that right?
Yeah, we're basing it on the $4.8 million, which is our estimated collection in the 2021 budget. Each percentage based on that number is about $960,000. So that comes up to a little over $1.9 million. I'm prorating it based on the fact that it will not go into effect until March 1st.
Right, thanks. Other questions, other comments?
Brian, will this also include the money that the town of DeWitt is looking for Carrier Fields?
It does not. For 2021, we would only look to offset the cuts that were in the ROT as presented. We would look in 2022 for funding for the DeWitt Fields.
Okay.
Other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Rowley.
Brian, was there a sunset on this? I forget.
I don't believe so, Jim. I'd have to check with the law department to confirm that, but I believe this is in perpetuity.
Yeah, if you could just double check and get back to maybe Chairman Knapp, that'd be great.
Sure.
And Leader Irvin as well.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this was all obviously pre-pandemic. So it seems like ages ago that we did this, but if you remember, this was something that was asked for by the hospitality industry in our county to help them, attract more tourism to the county. Obviously, pandemic-wise, that has got turned on its head a little bit, but hopefully with the recovery coming shortly, we'll be able to get back into the game here for what this was meant for. Again, with Chuck Law, but I'm 99% sure there's no sunset on this one. But yeah, we'll confirm that. But if you remember during the budget, we were actually concerned in our discussions at the legislature whether maybe we were a little bit overly optimistic on our room occupancy tax projections before the 2%. So yeah, quite frankly, I'm hoping this 2% will at least get us even. And then we'll have a good problem to have if we're a little bit over, and we can take a look at things from there.
And just to piggyback on what Chairman Knapp just said, my day job, I spend time listening to economists and things. And truth is, hospitality is one of the last industries expected to come back from the pandemic. So, in order for us to show some elasticity, if you will, in this market in that regard, and we all know how much, service-based industries, Central New York as a destination, have become a big factor in, or I should say, big drivers in our local economy. Much as I don't love the notion of raising a tax, it's this is an investment toward our ability to rebound and then going forward, compete better. Those in the tourism economic development arena did a nice job when we were looking at this, explaining how some additional funding is going to enable them to compete on a par with some of our neighbors, which I think is really important. So, that said, I think this is an important thing to ratify and move forward with.
Thank you, Leader May. Is there anything else? I have a motion. I need a first.
I'll move it.
Second.
We have a first, we have a second. Can we call the roll, please?
Legislator Spartus,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Jordan, Williams,
Yes.
Irvin.
Yes.
6 ayes, 1 absent.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, can I have a
Chairman-
motion?
Chairman Burtis, can I just, before we end? I
Yes.
gotta. So, I guess I have a question, not following, I guess, in the same, if you will, context of the ROT. So we're gonna be getting extra money that's gonna be coming in, right? And that money will be dispersed through the Arts Visit Syracuse, which I think it should be. But I also have to ask, though, we also might be getting not as much money as, well, more money. We might have less than we projected shortfalls in state aid. So I guess the question is if Steve or Brian are still on, in the governor's budget, talked about a 5% projected cut in state aid, and we projected cuts a lot deeper than that. If that does come to pass, where would we get that money from? Or what would we spend it on, I guess, if you will?
I could speak to that, Steve Morgan. Obviously, the amount that we've been projecting as potential reduction in state aid for 2020, it appears that what they're saying is they expect that will be 5%. That certainly will go into our analysis and into closing 2020. So if that's the case and it allows us to end better than we originally anticipated, whatever that means, either we use less fund balance than anticipated. It's really, what would happen in 2020. So obviously in 2021, the budget contemplated another 20% reduction. Obviously the potential reduction in 2021 is still tentative because that budget has to actually pass at the state level. So we'll have to wait and see what actually happens there. And then we'll obviously deal with that in a similar way. It'll help us, navigate the year and hopefully end the year on the right side up.
And if the cuts were projected through the budget, both the general fund and let me ask you this question. So what was the budgeted shortfall in all funds with an anticipated 20 or 22 or whatever 25, 20, whatever it was percent, maybe 24 that we anticipated losing out? What was the total amount? And then where would we be if it was actually 5% instead of the 20 or something?
For both this year and next year, we're in for state aid reduction, we're in the $20 million range.
Okay.
So obviously if it's something less than 20%, we do the math. If it's 5%, it would be, theoretically would only be 5% or 5 million. If that's what transpired, we still have to go through those calculations for both 2020, and then obviously we'll monitor the situation in 2021. But anything better than what we projected throughout 2020 from that perspective, and quite frankly, any perspective will help us hopefully end the year in a better position and allow us to tap into any use of fund balance that we had anticipated. So there obviously would be no desire to try and turn around and spend any more money. I mean, obviously it's too late for 2020 anyway. So we're just going to be, spending's done, accruals are due this week. So, Marty and his team will start putting the finishing touches on the year, looking to get financial statements out. So 2020, it is, it again will help us, hopefully help us reduce the amount that we have to tap into fund balance to balance the year.
So I guess that's a bit of good news. Hopefully, right? If the budget passes, and it actually goes to 5%. We'll have to wait and see. But second follow-up question with the financials. So we also had tax revenue, sales tax came in a little bit higher than projected in the last fourth quarter, right? The December payment was higher, and I think we did well in the last couple months, finishing up the fourth quarter. So
Yeah,
what
so
additional, that was additional money, which would be additional as to what we budgeted. Would that also go back into what was fund balance, or was that go back in, and then if we so choose to, we could use some of that money to offset some of the cuts that were within the budget? Is that-
So, a couple things. So number one, we're not final with sales tax yet. We still have 2 payments left. There's still 2 payments that relate back to 2020 that we have yet to receive. We'll receive those in February. So we'll close out that picture along with all of the other million things that go into our budget. We'll be in the process over the next month, again, working with Marty and his team to finalize 2020. And anything, whether it's sales tax, whether it's state cuts, whether it's spending, regardless of what it is, on what side of the ledger it is, if things end better than anticipated, than we've been projecting, that again will help us end the year in a better position, hopefully, and not have to tap into it fund balance to close any remaining gap. From a spending perspective, that's not going to change. Anything with that may come in differently than projected from a revenue perspective for 2020, that's not going to change the spending side of things. Except for potentially what we just talked about today, which is if I choose to use, if there's the ability to, that is, if I choose to use any of that money for these capital projects instead of borrow, that would be the potentially only change in spending. 2021 is a different story. If we end 2020 better than expected from a sales tax perspective, because if you recall, the budget was based on finishing 2020 at a -7%. If we finish better than that, then we start the year in a better position. But with sales tax, you're not going to know where we end the year until the year's over. So you're not going to have the ability to look at sales tax and say, oh, that's coming in better, let's appropriate some money and let's spend some money. Because you're not going to be able to do that. You need to have excess revenue in order to be able to do that. And from a sales tax perspective, you're not going to have that until, you won't know that until the end of the 2021 fiscal year. So I think I know where you're going with this, and that is, if things are looking better than anticipated, is there an ability to appropriate additional expenditures to support the budget? And from a revenue perspective, you really can't do that unless it's considered excess revenue, which means that it's an excess of what you budgeted. And a lot of the revenues that we have, you won't know that until it's the end of the year. Really, the best hope, I would assume, to look at potential spending, if that was the choice, would be if there's some type of stimulus that comes from the federal government.
But notwithstanding the federal government help, which hopefully help is on its way, and anything we get, something is better than nothing. Hopefully we get something, but if the sales tax, end of the year sales tax, and then the additional sales tax payments that were still owed to us through 2020 come in higher than anticipated, then 2 things: either we just use less fund balance to close out 20.
Well, I didn't mute him.
Yes.
You're mute.
Sorry, hit mute. So we could do 1 of 2 things, right? We could utilize the same amount of money that we thought we would have to use in fund balance, and apply that additional money that we have that was budgeted elsewhere within the budget to restore some cuts that we had to make, or we could just use less of fund balance. Is that?
Well, 2020 is over. I mean, there's no ability to spend more money in 2020. That's over. So however we
No.
So
No. What I meant was the sales tax revenue that came in.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Even if you end better from a sales tax perspective than projected, Chris, there's no ability to spend any more in 2020. The year is over. So the only potential you'd be looking at would be 2021. And what I was trying to explain was, even if you go into 2021 with a better position than you anticipated from the 2020 perspective, you still don't know if you're going to have excess sales tax until the 2021. Actually, not until 2022 we know that. So, you know, we could have this discussion, you know, offline too, Chris, if you want. You know, when it comes to revenue, the ability to appropriate revenue and spend it, it has to be considered excess revenue, which means it has to exceed in actuality what you budgeted. So to make this easy, if we budgeted, you know, $10 million in sales tax next year, you'd have to actually collect something in excess of that to actually be able to appropriate that and spend it on something. So, you know, you could see the challenge. We won't know where we end sales tax most likely until either well into 2021 or even into 2022.
All right, thank you, Chris. I see you there and I see you got some more, but I think we run out of time for everybody. I think it's a good conversation, but at this point, I think we need to run. You can always get with Steve.
Absolutely, Chris. If you want to call me, I can certainly walk you through it offline too, Chris.
Yeah, I'm hopeful, you know, and listen, we're going to get more money in ROT, right? So we're going to apply that to visit Syracuse and the arts like we should. I'm just saying that.
Yeah, and that's a good example, Chris. That's the same case. You know, we went
to
through
maybe
conversation, you know.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's a maybe. I think we're going to, and I hope that when we get there, we make the decision that we bring back some of our, you know, restore some cuts to some of the departments that were cut deep, and we can bring back some of our laid off county workers. So, but we'll get there. Thank you. I appreciate the conversation, Steve. We'll talk offline. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I make one comment, please?
Just one, Mr. Bill.
Sure, thank you. I think we would all be served better if someone would help Jim Rowley get his coffee.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going there right after we hang up, so.
That's right. Will you make a motion, Mr. Rowley, to adjourn?
Oh, I'll do that, sure.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Good. Chris Ryan is a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Good day, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.